This video is going to break down the strategists within Marvel Rivals and the kind of three subcategories of strategists that are within this game. Now, they're not officially in this game, and we do want to mention that this is just kind of like soft categories we've made up so that you can understand what each hero is actually trying to achieve and how their kit's built up to be used within this game. So we're not going over specific characters, even though we will mention character abilities within this video. Now we're starting off first with the revivers. Now there's only two heroes in this entire game that can revive teammates. One is Adam Warlock and the other one is Rocket Raccoon. Now Rocket's ability allows you to revive one teammate with his ability, and if you put it in a safe place you'll revive a teammate, and that is an awesome way to use this hero. And it's one of the main reasons people are using Rocket in the first place, because he's not one of the best heroes in the game, even though he does output a good amount of DPS as well. He's basically acting as a DPS for the most part, and similarly goes for Adam Warlock as well, because he actually does output a good amount of damage too, especially for a healer character. But when it comes to his ultimate ability and having the option to revive your whole entire team if they get wiped is pretty ridiculous, and that is why these heroes are getting used within the high level games, is to bring back their team, because their actual healing abilities, aside from their damage output, which is actually pretty good, their healing capabilities to heal their team is not the best. So Adam Warlock's not the best healer in the game if you're trying to keep your teammates alive. Now, how do you actually want to play these heroes? Now, when it comes to Adam Warlock and Rocket, they actually play almost completely differently as well, which is really strange to see. But Rocket, you can be a bit more aggressive with. First of all, because his hitbox is really small, so you're not really going to be taking so much damage, and his movement capabilities are absolutely insane. So you're not really going to die very often if you can play Rocket well. And that is the main thing with both of these heroes that you need to keep an eye on, is staying alive. Your job is to stay alive whilst you're bringing your teammates back. So that's the whole point in using both of these heroes. So that's what they do have in common. Now, the way you stay alive with these heroes, like I said, is different. Rocket's is movement, but Adam Warlock is basically acting as kind of like a ranged DPS type hero. Because his attack is hit scan, you can kind of sit in the back line, and that is how you want to use Adam Warlock, and that's the way you'll stay alive with him. So like I said, what they do have in common is that you need to stay alive to bring back your team, but they do it in different ways. So the next group of healers are the DPS healers. That's what I like to call them anyway. And these are the ones that are going to be the easiest to switch from when you're playing DPS most of the time. And that's because they output a good amount of damage, especially with the way their abilities actually work. In terms of their self-sustain, is not going to be the best compared to some of the other strategists within the game, but they do have enough to keep themselves alive, and they do output a solid amount of damage, and they also have decent movement to allow them to get in and out of fights as well. And the way you want to play with these heroes is that you're able to kind of weave in and out of your front line and your back line, healing and dealing damage as much as you possibly can. That is the way you use these heroes in particular, but we'll go on into specifics quickly over each hero. So when it comes to Mantis, first of all, she has critical hits, and that's similar to Luna Snow as well. So you're going to output loads of damage if you land headshots, essentially. Then she has a lot of damage buff abilities, so that's going to basically grant you the ability to increase your own damage as well as your team's damage. Not only that, you can heal them up as well. Luna Snow also has abilities where if you're dealing damage with her abilities, you actually gain health back. So that is how her abilities work. And when it comes to Cloak and Dagger, they only have one shield bubble that is self-sustain, but Cloak's ability to deal damage is pretty solid, since he's not missing any shots whatsoever, because it is pretty much aimbot or lock-on or whatever you want to call it. So you will be dealing loads of damage, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time, but because you're not missing any shots, you're essentially dealing loads of damage here. So all of these heroes work in a similar way, like I said, so you do want to be playing between the front line and the back line, healing up both your front line and your back line, like I said, and also providing a damage output whilst you're basically floating and being the buffer player within that. The next category of healers is the self-sustain insane healer, is what I like to call them, to be honest. And the reason for that is because they're able to stay alive the longest within this game, so that's the first thing, so you can keep yourself alive. And not only can you keep yourself alive, you also output the most amount of heals compared to any other healer within this game, especially within a short space of time. Over time, all the other healers can bring you up to full health, but these two heroes, when it comes to Loki and Jeff the Shark, output an insane amount of healing in a very quick amount of time. Now, when it comes to how they do that, is very different. The easiest one to understand is Jeff the Shark, and that is why a lot of beginners love using this hero. Not only is he just cute in this game, but he does output tons of heals very, very easily. So we'll discuss Jeff first, and when it comes to Jeff, he has his attack, which doesn't really deal tons of damage, let's be perfectly honest. But his healing output is insane. Like, it's so ridiculously fast at healing teams to full HP. Having a Jeff on your team is one of the best things in this game. Jeff's survivability is also fantastic, as he can pretty much stay underground for as long as he wants whilst he's simultaneously healing. Not only that, he's really hard to hit in this kind of time where he's under there. Also, he's got his bubbles as well, which increases healing not only for his team but also for him as well. So he's able to stay alive for such a long amount of time whilst also climbing walls at the same time. Then when it comes to Loki, he does work slightly differently, but almost the same thing. So his idea is to stay away from the fight once more. The way Loki does it is that instead of kind of hiding underground and things like that, he has his doppelgangers, which he can switch to. He can also go invisible, which allows him to regenerate his health and reposition, which is absolutely insane. And his doppelgangers allow him to switch between them and basically get out of fights if he needs to. And this is all basically moving your hero around so you stay alive to heal your team. Now, his doppelgangers is his main source of healing, because if you're trying to heal with Loki by himself, he's actually probably worse than all the other healers we talked about in this video so far. But once you have the doppelgangers in play and you're aiming them towards either an enemy player to deal damage or towards a teammate to do healing, you do insane amounts of healing with Loki. Like, it's ridiculous amounts. You can get your... Now, how do you want to actually use these two heroes? Now, these two heroes work very similarly, and what you want to do is position yourself very well and mainly within your front line, because you want to keep your team alive and you are the main source of healing. There's other strategists on your team, but they have a different job to you. Your job is to keep them alive. That is the main job for Loki and Jeff the Shark. You want to output as much heals as you can, and if you're not on the highest end of healing on your scoreboard with these heroes, then you're doing something wrong. Lastly, we have the Invisible Woman, and she kind of sits in her own category, and her category is actually crowd control. Now, she's one of the best crowd control heroes in the entire game, never mind just in the strategist category, but what she does do well, like I said, is crowd control. And if you're trying to push an objective or get enemies off an objective, or if you're trying to push onto an objective or anything of this nature whatsoever, then you need to have an Invisible Woman on your team. Her abilities are absolutely insane for this. Now, she's not the best healer, she's not the best damage outputter, and she's not the best at reviving or anything like that. She can't even revive, and also her self-sustain is not the best either. So it's strange how she's very popular as a strategist within this game, but the reason for it is because her attacks do phase through enemies and attack multiple enemies, which is useful. But the main thing is the crowd control ability. Now, having the ability to push enemies off the objective entirely is absolutely insane. And that is why she's getting used so much within this game. Now, she's not the best strategist in the game, I don't think. Having that capability to do this is making her get used quite often. And hopefully we'll see more heroes like this. So when Ultron or whatever else we get in this game, hopefully we get more crowd control type strategists. That'd be really cool to see. Now, if you enjoyed this video and it helped you learn something about your favorite heroes, then let me know down in the comments. If you've got any other ideas of what kind of categories these heroes fit inside, also leave that in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.